I'm Rochelle Carey here in San Jose at Reuters Momentum AI. The focus this year is how to scale AI to optimize your enterprise. To talk more about that and governance in particular is Emerald Leeuw-Goggin, the global head of AI governance and privacy at Logitech. Emerald, thank you so much for joining me.
It's my pleasure.
That title is a handful. You're the chief privacy officer and the global head of AI governance. Sounds like a lot of responsibility. Tell me what that role is.
Yes, absolutely. So let me lead by saying at Logitech, we're all about responsible innovation, and doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do is a huge part of our culture, and actually what drew me to Logitech now many, many moons ago. So my job is basically to make sure that that way of thinking is really embedded in the product development process at Logitech. So from start to finish. Now, you're right, it's a long
It
title. So
is,
let
but
me
that's
break it into
okay.
two parts.
All right.
So the global head of AI governance piece, imagine if AI was a really fast driving car. My job is very much to make sure that that car has brakes, that it adheres to the rules of the road,
Okay.
and it doesn't cause harm along the way. But also, it needs to go really fast and reach new destinations.
Okay. That's a lot at one time, but it's a great analogy. I've actually never heard it explained that way. That's a great analogy.
Yeah, and like everyone is really embracing AI as they should, but of course, is not completely risk-free either. So my job is to make sure that all of that works well. But I really believe this is a positive sum game. We can have responsible technology while moving fast, provided the right controls and processes are in place. Now, looking at the Chief Privacy Officer role or Global Head of Privacy, that's all about personal data. So making sure that the data that we handle as a company that people trust us with gets handled with care and with respect, and also in compliance with the many, many data protection and privacy laws all over the world.
Okay, about that, all over the world. Yes, governance rules, policies, regulations vary from company to company, from country to country. In some cases in the US, it varies from state to state. Um, Multiple jurisdictions. How do you make all of those things mesh in some way, if even possible?
Yeah, it's a great question. And of course, regulation, particularly with fast moving technology, is always going to be challenging. And as any other global company, we at Logitech, we are held to the highest standard and we are subject to this complex web of regulation. And I think right now in the world of AI, the AI Act is really kind of taking center stage, right,
Absolutely.
in the European Union.
Yep.
But there were some questions about whether it would move full steam ahead, but that's since been confirmed. So it's going to be really, really important for companies that are deploying AI and developing it. But I also want to stress that not everything is completely new. When we look at this law, there are some themes that we are all familiar with, like fairness, transparency, security. When you really dig into it, and particularly with higher risk AI systems, you'll see all of these requirements appear. Now, a lot of eyeballs are on the AI specific laws at the moment. And my view is that might be, well, they're important, but it's a little bit misguided right now to be just waiting for them because AI is already really regulated. And now it might make sense why so many privacy people are also taking on AI governance because a lot of AI actually processes personal data.
Yes.
So that could be in the training data, it could
Mhm.
be in the input, it could be in the output, which means that all of that data processing is already subject to laws such as the GDPR. Now, that means that all of these principles that we know so well, such as transparency and
Sure.
fairness, that we are seeing reappear, they already apply today. So we can't really dawdle and wait for the next law to drop. AI is already shipping. So the way we think about this is we adhere to the principles of privacy by design.
Mm.
And what that means in practice is that the legal, including privacy and AI governance, because that sits in legal at Logitech, they're completely embedded in the whole product development lifecycle at the company. So that means that these principles aren't like an afterthought that we try to bolt on at the end, but rather they are a discussion and a way that we build in,
The entire
yeah, the
time.
entire life cycle all the way to end of life if that's the case for a product or service.
You also say that if your rules disappear, your personal rules disappear because some law changes, then you never really had any real rules that matter to you in the first place. So who you are and what you want to be as a company in some ways has to operate separate and apart from what these overarching regulations are.
Yes, that is completely right because law is always slow,
Hmm.
right? And I mean, AI most certainly is not. It's possibly the most fast-moving technology I've certainly experienced in
Absolutely.
my career. And I think, like I said earlier, we cannot wait. AI is being deployed today, it's being shipped today, as it should be. Like it can deliver so many amazing benefits, but it means we have to be proactive about all of this. Um, and we certainly think about it in that way at Logitech. And we've been shipping exciting AI products for quite some time. And I'd love to talk to you a little bit about one of them, which is actually
Please do.
my favorite one.
Tell me.
It's called the Logitech Sight Camera. And it's basically a cylindrical camera that sits in a conference room and it uses edge AI. So what that means is the data is locally processed on the device as opposed to in the cloud. And what it does is during a meeting, it will intelligently frame the speaker that's sitting in the room. So I don't know about you, but I have dialed into many a conference room and I would be the remote person because my accent probably gives away that I live in Ireland and there's like all of these great people sitting in a conference room and I have this view just from quite far away
Hmm.
and it can be quite difficult to follow along. Whereas this will show me the speaker on my screen as they're speaking. Now, I think that's such a testament to Logitech's ambition to deliver really great and innovative AI technologies. And it was one of Time's inventions of the year last year, while also having that ambition to create a more inclusive experience, particularly in a hybrid environment. Because let's be honest, many of us are hybrid now.
Absolutely. That's the new normal.
It
That's
is.
we're not going to go back from that. So what do you think companies should consider in light of this regulatory divergence, right? There's changing approaches, changing processes, and these multinational companies. How do you smooth all this out, for lack of a better term?
It's a great question. And I think, particularly when you have thousands of people all over the world and you're telling them to do a new thing, that scale is always going to be super hard. But that's not unique to us, that's true everywhere. You need operational prowess, you need some change management, which sounds a little bit boring, but it's really important. It's really important. But there are things you can do to manage that. So, we really believe in responsible AI, and we've made public commitments about that. So as I guess, I think it was ChatGPT became way more mainstream, and we said, look, this is the technology that's here. We believe in it, and we want to make sure that we do all of this responsibly. So we articulated our responsible AI principles and published them. So it's a public commitment. So they are privacy, security, fairness, transparency, and accountability.
Okay.
Now, we always believed in those, but we think that this is particularly important in the context of AI. Now, this sounds a little bit fluffy, and I did have this discussion, I think it was 2 weeks ago, with a very famous privacy professor,
Okay.
Professor Daniel Solov, and he challenged me on this a little bit. He was like, "Ah, it sounds a little bit fluffy," but no, it leads to real change in companies. Because when you are really clear on what's important to you as a company, you give everybody a why and not just a law when you ask them to do a bunch of new things. It makes it much easier for people to naturally just do the thing they're supposed to be doing because it's the right thing to do, as opposed to seeing this as this difficult compliance hurdle to overcome. Also, it empowers people to make their own decisions fast, particularly if sometimes a decision needs to be made at 2 in the morning. If you are clear on how you operate as a company, setting that up in the right direction becomes a lot easier, right? And then of course, it also mitigates risk for us because we're scaling good judgment. And at the end of the day, the most important thing that it allows us to do is to stay true to who we are as a company.
Okay, so I'm sure there are other companies that would watch this and think, well, that's great for them. Where do I even start? And you talked about going fast. It's not, you can't necessarily get from there to where you are overnight. But if a company does realize it is time for me to set up a responsible AI program, where would you tell them to start?
I would say definitely start with your values because your values inform your culture. And laws, as you were saying, they change all of the time, but culture is sticky. It's the thing that lasts in your company. And then I think for me, there's 3 steps to this. So there's values, there's culture, and then on top of that sits your infrastructure. And by that, I don't just mean your technical infrastructure, I mean that in a broad sense. So things like your policies, your procedures, your risk assessments, all of the things that you would expect to be there in a good AI governance program. Now, When you have all of these three pieces, it allows you to do the right thing and to keep the trust that your customers have in you. And at the end of the day, that's the thing that matters most to all companies.
Absolutely. So if you haven't started, get started now. Lots of really insightful information. Emerald Leeuw-Goggin with Logitech. Emerald, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.